Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to discuss about build tools. Yeah. So in one of the build tools we discuss Maven. For Java, there are different types of build tools available like Ant, Maven, Gradle. So on this one we will discuss Maven. So most everyone will use Maven, so that we will discuss Maven. So what is build management? Before we discuss why we need to use build tool. So whenever we use build tool, the build management or build automation is process of automating all the tasks to compile and build the application software. So basically the Java developer will write the code, the Java classes, so it should be compiled and build the application so that it will be generated var file or jar file. So it will compile the source code and packaging the binary like var file, jar file, and it will do the run the automated test cases and deploying the target system and creating the documents. So whenever we use Maven, it will do all the things. So what is Maven? Maven is a build and project management tool that is generally used framework for built-in Java. Okay. Maven is automation and management tool developed by the Apache Software Foundation. It is from Apache Software. Okay. Maven is a project management tool, which encompasses of a project object model like form file. It is standards and project lifecycle and dependency management system and logic for executing plugin calls and define phases in lifecycle. Okay. Maven manages the project build and reporting document from central piece of information. Okay. This is also it will be do. And Maven uses convention over convocation means so it will have that standard structure. So as a developer, you have to write the code and you have to place your test classes under test folder and class files under SRC and resources dependencies under resources. You will keep so that remaining will taken care by the Maven. The developers are not required to create build process themselves. Okay, so Maven will take care the build process. You just need to follow the structure. That's it. Okay. Now let's install the Maven and we'll generate a sample project. Okay, to install Maven we have required one server. I just created the server. The prerequisite is Java. So let's switch to that. Root user. Currently Java is not available. Sudo apt. I have created a Ubuntu mission. Now once Java is installed, we have to install Maven. Now if you check, Java 11 is installed. Let me download Apache Maven. So we are using Linux machine. I am going with the tar file, Maven 3.9 version, cd, opt, wget, tar -xvf. So we have to untar. The command is tar -xvf. I'm removing this file. Now this is the file available. I am renaming Apache Maven to Maven 3. Now, if I switch to the Maven 3 and inside bin, cd bin, here executable files will be available. To check mvn version. Okay, this is the version. We have to set the path so that we can access from anywhere. To set the path permanently, we will use in the root home directory. There is a bash rc file. File will be available. At the end, I'm going to export the path. Export path equal to dollar path /opt maven 3 /bin. Okay, here my maven is available. I'm saving this file and I'm restarting. For that, we use source bash rc. Now mvn version, it will be available, and we have installed the maven and we have set the path. Okay, now we will generate a maven project. Okay, to generate the maven project, there is a command. It will be generated the project automatically. The command is, so now let me switch to the home EC2 Ubuntu. I'm into home user. Here if I run, let me create one directory, Maven projects. How Maven will work is, it will be have form file. It will read that form file and it will create. Okay. Now whenever we created the Maven project, so we have to generate. We have to use this command mvn archetype generate. Paste this. So we have to provide group ID, artifact ID, versioning. Okay. So Maven will have three type of repository. One is central repository, another one is local repository, another one is remote repository. Okay. The central repository will have publicly available, and the local repository means it will be created .m2 folder under root user. If it is in Linux, if it is in Windows, in under users, it will be created .m2 repository. So it will be downloaded all the plugins. It will be internal storage space. Similarly, choose number of apply artifacts, create var or jar. I'm giving simply enter. So choose Maven archetype quick start version. Okay. If you haven't provide anything, by default it will take 1.4, and it is asking the group ID. Group ID nothing but similar to organization ID. So I'm giving BC Reddy is my organization ID. Uh, like Amazon.com or Flipkart.com, like that organizations will have, right? So similar way, I'm giving my organization is BC Reddy DevOps. Here artifact ID is nothing but a project name which we have to give. Under here I am giving demo, and version if you haven't mentioned anything, by default it is taking 1.0, and snapshot. The artifact package type, either you need jar or var file. If you haven't provided anything, by default it will be created a jar file. So if you want to give provide jar, it will be generated jar file. So now with these values, it is going to be created the application, like project is going to be created. Now build is success. If you look here, so demo project it is created on top. Okay, the project name is demo. If you cd into demo, it will be created src folder and form.xml. This is the sample file. If you go to src, there is a main and test. Okay, the main Java function, main classes will be available under main, and here Java, inside Java there is a jar file. Here app.java will be available. It is simple hello world application. That's it. We can create project in this way also, and there is we can create another way, Spring Boot, Spring Initializer. You can create project from here also. Okay, you have to select the language and build tool, project build tool is Maven, and you have to provide Spring version, and you have to provide group ID, artifact ID, name and description and package name, either jar or var file, and Java version. Once this is done, just create, it will be created, and you have to copy that package into var file and you have to extract. There is one more way we have to create directly. You have to give the values like this. So here we are giving directly Maven archetype generate the group ID, name of group ID, and artifact ID, demo Maven project, and artifact ID Maven type artifact web application we are going to be created. And interactive mode, I am making it as false. So using these values only, it is going to be created. See, now it is create. Let me remove this empty folder. Now demo Maven web project is created. The same, it will be generated form.xml and src folder, cd main, src here. There is a, it is a web var file, so it have web application. Under resources, the dependencies will be available. So here it will, we have index.html file, JSP file. Okay. Now this is another way. What is Maven repository? Okay, Maven is built for, is usually popular because of dependency management tool. Okay, a repository is a directory where all the project jar libraries, plugins, and other specific artifacts stored under Maven. And Maven repositories are three types, as I said. One is local repository, central repository, remote repository. The local repository will have available under root. Inside root, there is a ls-la. If you check, there is a m2.m2. This is the Maven local repository where it will have all the plugins, jar files, var files, everything. It will be available. See, whatever required plugins, it will be available. So whenever it is new plugin, it it is looking, if it is not available, it will take from the central repository. If internet facility will be available, internet connectivity will be available for this Maven, so it will take from central repository and keep it local. From there, it will be taking. And central repository means it should be publicly available. Okay, the central repository will have all the plugins will available and it will take from here. Okay, this is the central repository. Similarly, remote repository means it will not available in the central repository. It is specific to that within organization where all the plugins will keep under remote repository. Okay, organized private dependencies in this case Maven will fail. Okay, now how Maven will work. Okay, so whenever we created a Maven project, it will be generated form.xml. Okay, form.file. In the form.file, we will have uh, GAV values, group ID, artifact ID values, and plugins, dependencies, uh, many things it will be defined in form.xml. Okay, it will read the form.xml and download the dependencies defined in the form.xml into local repository from central or remote repository. It will execute Maven lifecycle and goals plugins defined in Maven. Basically, it have standard structures. As I said, right? Maven will follow the standard structure where source code will be available under base directory, src main Java. If it is resources, if we have any dependencies, it will have under resources and test. So test classes will be available under test folder and compiled whenever you should compile, it will be generated dot class files. The output of the source code, it will be created one target file. Under target file, it will be generated the dot class files and jar files, var files, everything. And distributable means the target under classes, it will be generated jar file. So we will talk about Maven form.xml. Okay, what this form.xml? Form stands for project object model. It is a fundamental unit work of Maven. Okay, it is an XML file. It resides in base directory of project as form.xml. As I said, right here under home directory, each project will have form.xml. Now, if you go to cd demo, there is a form.xml file. So, without form.xml, we didn't consider this is Maven project. Okay. So, whenever it will have form.xml, when you compile the code, when you do mvn clean install, it will read that form.xml along with settings.xml. That settings.xml will be available under uh, .m2 location wherever we have installed m2 under config the settings.xml file will be there. It will read this both the files and if you are using the plugins either from central repository or in a remote repository, so based on that it will take and it will do the compilation. Now currently if you check, if you read that form.xml, as I said, we have group ID, artifact ID, versioning, okay, and properties. So the starting tag of we have project and ending with project. Inside that we have GAV and properties, dependency plugins, okay, and under build section, what are the things you have used and what are the plugins you are using for this project. Similar way, there is another project demo Maven project. Here also form file will be available. If you can add this one form.xml, see here project and ending with project we have group ID, artifact ID and name of the project and URL and dependencies. This dependency is for executing the test cases, okay, JUnit, and build name. So it will be generated demo Maven web project. Okay, there are similarly we will use plugins, dependencies, another depend. If you need another dependencies, you have to add one more tag inside dependencies. Basically, we will provide the plugin information, what this plugin will do, when to use, and how to execute the plugin. The POM contains information about the project and various configuration details used by the Maven build projects. Okay. Farm also contain goals, plugins. While executing task or goal, Maven look for farm in current directory. It read the farm and get needed configuration information, then execute the goal. Some of the configurations specified in. So as I said, right, it have project dependencies, plugins, goals, build profiles, and project version, profile, source code location. All those we will have information available under form.xml. This is sample one. All the forms required element. One is group ID, artifact ID, versioning. So each project will have single form file. The project notation in the repository is group ID, artifact ID, versioning. The elements in form.xml, as I said, project element is the root element in the form.xml, and there is a one more element will have model version, means what version of form model you are using, either version 4.0.4.00 for Maven 2 and Maven 3. So this 4 is main version, main release, minor release, and release fan, batch release, like this. And group ID, as I said, group ID means it is specific to that organization one, and artifact ID it is specific for project ID, and version, the version element means which version you are using for that project release. We will have different versions of your project. And dependencies, dependency element is to define the list of dependencies of the project, and dependency where dependency inside the dependency tag, each dependency described in group ID, artifact ID, version, and the name, element name, and the scope, packaging, like this. Okay. There is one more file called superform, means it's a default form where all the forms inherit from the parent or default. This is the base form known as superform. It will contain the inherit values. To check that superform, okay, there is a command maven hyphen maven space help hyphen effective. It will give you that all the dependency informations of your superform. Now Maven build lifecycle. Okay, a, a build lifecycle is well-defined sequence of phases which define in order to which goal to be executed. Okay, Maven will have goals. Okay, we will it will be have three built-in goals if you haven't provided anything. One is default, clean, and site. Okay, so the default lifecycle handles your project deployment, and clean will handles the project cleaning. Okay, if already the project, if it is there, it will be clean and it will be deleted the old workspace. And site means it will be handles your creation of project documentation. We have to use mvn clean, means if it is target folder available, it will be deleted that. If it is mvn site, it will be generated documentation. Now if you use this project, suppose, so if you use mvn site, so it will read this form.xml and it will be generated that documentation about your project. So it will be generated XML files, HTML files. See, it will be generated target folder if you do cd target, cd site, we have index.xml, plugins.xml, summary of HTML. HTML files will be available and images. The complete project information it will be generated and it will be created document of your project. Okay. Now if you do ambient clean, it will be in the current base directory. It will delete this target folder. Means the current target folder it will be deleted. Now if you check, it is removed. So it will clean your current project directory. And default means it will be used for deployment. The phases of default lifecycle is one is validate, another one is compile and test, package, install, deploy. Validate means it will validate the form file and necessary information, all the syntaxes it will check. In the current project, if you do mvn validate, it will validate the form file. Is there any errors it will be available or not? It will take the resources and generated resources, all those things it will be checked. See, if it is build success means everything is well and good. Now compile means your source code will compile in this phase. Means it will be generated that class files. If you do mvn compile, it will be created the target folder. Under target folder, the class files will be generated. So first of all, it will take that required dependencies from the central repository and it will take from here. Okay, the downloaded from central repository. Now if you check, there is target folder and the target folder it will be have classes. Inside classes there is no class files will be available for this project. If you have class files available, it will be generated. If you check this project, we have another project, right? Inside Ubuntu demo, this we created from template. So if you do mvn validate, it is validated successfully. Now mvn compile, so it is compiled successfully and the one source file will be available under target classes. Okay, cd target, it will have classes file. So here the jar, inside jar app.class file. It is simple application, that's the reason only one class. If it is complex application, many class files will be available. Okay, and that, so it is compile phase. When you do mvn test, so it will be executed the test classes. Okay, so for that one you have to go to page directory inside demo. Now if you do mvn test, so what it will do, if you do test right, first it will validate your form file and compile the source code. It will execute the compilation and it will do the test. It will be executed sequentially, validate, compile, test. If you do package, it will validate, compile, test and package it will do. Similar way, now if you do ambient test, it using JUnit plugins, it will be generated the test cases and build is success and all the test classes will be available under cd target test. See, it is available test classes. See, app test class files will be available. Now, package means it will be Either we need jar or var package. Currently, on the test directory, it is not created any package. See, if you observe here, we haven't created any var package or jar package. The complete application, we have to create a var file so that this var file only we have to deploy. Now you have to do mbn package. When you do mbn package, it will execute the phases in sequence. Now it under the package it is available. Okay, under target directory. If you do cd target directory, the package is available. If it is a var file, if you are mentioning var file in the form.xml, it will be generated var file. Okay. Now, if this var file is generated some other project, okay, inside your application, this project, this jar file should use to some other project, so that we have to keep this jar file in some shared repository. It means shared location that we will use mvn install. It will copy this into the local repository. It means inside .m2. Okay. Now for that one, if you do mvn install, this page will inside local or remote repository for dependencies for other project locally. Okay. Now if you do mvn install, it will look for that jar or var file, and it will take and it will keep to install dot m2 repository. Under this it is copied. See, installing from here dot m2 repositories, there is a bc ready devops. Under demo there is one dot snapshot. This jar file is available. See, here the jar file will be available. One dot jar and form.xml it is stored, means it is copied. So whenever the other project, the dependencies is available, it will go and pick from there. Okay. And deploy means it will deploy the jar file to the target server. Okay. If you have configured the target server, either Nexus uh, or JFrog, under this configurations file, under the settings.xml file, it will take and it will deploy using mvn deploy command. Now, if you do ambient deploy also, it will fail because we haven't provided any uh, dependencies. Okay, where to deploy? Okay, the distributions we haven't deployed. Okay, that's the reason it is failing. These are the Maven default lifecycle phases. So similar, this is the goals: MVN install, MVN clean, MVN packages. Okay, so now if you do MVN clean package or install, so clean means, as I said, it will remove the old directory, old target folder, and it will be generated fresh one. And compile, install, test clean. Okay, it will do that generated sources and resources, compile, test, package, integrate, test, install. Okay, clean compile means it will clean old builds and execute sources and resources like this. If you want to check your tree structure of project dependencies, okay, the command is mbn dependency hyphen and resources plugin. If you get the latest version of plugin information, you will be able to use this command. So now there is one more concept called Maven build profile. Okay, A build profile is set of configuration values which can be used to set or override default values. Using build profile, you can customize your build for different environment such as production, deployment, development versions, okay, like this. And types of build profile: pre-project, pre-user, and global. So if you want to use same configuration, if you have used the same project for different environment, so for different environment will have different credentials, right? Means the credentials information will be have different. For test, we will have test credentials, and for prod credentials. For development, it will have different credentials. Okay, so if you mention there is a profile tag, if you use for test, means it will use for test environment. If you use dev, it is used for dev. Like this, we will use the same configuration for different environment. Okay, we will use. And if you observe, there is a snapshot and release. Okay, snapshot means the version currently under development. When you release the project, and if you haven't mentioned any snapshot directly version, okay, means the released version, no more changes for the same version. Now dependency. Now we will use the dependency tag. Okay, so basically the dependency tag will have dependencies. Under dependency it will have, if you want to defend, there are three projects: project A, project B, project C. If you want to define depending on project C and project A, project B, so those dependencies you have mentioned in form.xml. Okay, is a dependency management is a core feature of Maven. Okay, managing dependency for single project is easy. Managing dependency for multiple projects and applications that contains hundreds of modules is possible using Maven. Okay, Maven helps to deal of defending and creating managing. It is easy in well-defined class paths in library versions. Okay, so how Maven dependency is search in sequence. Okay, so whenever we execute Maven commands to build, the Maven start look for dependency libraries in the following sequence. It will search first in local. If it is not def if it is not available, then it will be look for central repository. If it is not found, it is search in remote repository. If it is not found, the the process and throws an error. Okay. Sometimes your organization doesn't want developers to use central repository, download any jars. That time we will use mirrors. Okay. So it is equivalent to the central repository, but it will require the plugins information and dependencies will keep inside the remote repository where it is pointing to the mirrors. Okay. See, similar way, this is the local repository. We haven't pointed to the central one, internet. Okay. So it is pointed to the mirror. All the plugins are available to the mirror one. Okay. The Maven plugins. Okay. Whenever perform any goal executing plugins, it is using Maven plugins only. Maven actually performs the goals by executing plugins. Each task done by the plugins only. So we have to use Maven plugins. Whenever you will use Maven plugins, basically it will create a jar file, create a var file, and compile source code, unit test. All those things it will be done for us. Okay. Plugins can be classified in two ways. One is build plugins, another one is remote plugins. Okay. If we are using build plugins, it is for using project element build. Okay. If you are using remote plugins, so for documenting and reporting, we will use reporting plugins. The plugin is specified in form.xml under plugins element. Each plugin have multiple goals. Okay. You can define phase from where plugin should get started and processing phases of element. Okay, we have used clean pa clean face. Okay, when to use that plugin, those information. See, like in this session, under build, we have to use plugins, plugin information, when to use the plugin. Okay, each plugin will have GAV values, the group ID, artifact ID. We are using Maven and run plugin and version, execute, and the goal is clean. When to use the clone while running, we have to clean that one. And clean face, we are using the tasks. So when to use the plugin to be invoked, and the plugin has to do what the plugin GAV. Okay. Multi-modules. Okay. Maven multi-module means a project from aggregator form that manages the group of submodules. Okay. Inside one project, if you want to use other project, so that time you will use multi-module. All the dependencies will be have mentioned under the project. Suppose if you use any calculator application, so in the calculator application, addition, subtraction, we will have, right? So each one have one module. So all those module informations will be available under one main form.xml. Okay. So those we will use multi-module project. Now the submodules are regular Maven projects and they can be built in separately through aggregator form. Okay. By adding the project through aggregator form, each project that have packaging different types and form results will be built in archive file. So we have parent and inside parent we have to mention the submodule informations. If you want to update the version, okay, Maven version, the command is this one. And as I said, right, MVN site it will use for project documentation. The command MVN site it will create documentation file. It is similar way for like this. It will be generated the documentation. The complete project information will be available in the URL HTML file. Okay. So this command, MVN update version command, it will set the version, current version. If you want to update, it will use MVN version commit. It will take backup, and if you want to revert that, it will be reverted the version. Okay, it will have to old version. So that's all about in this session. If you like the video, please share and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.